Take your front seat. The runway lights are up and the room is buzzing. Welcome to Brand Runway, where fempreneurs, coaches and visionaries transform from hidden gem to high-end influence. I'm Jenni Parker Brown, your front row guide to creating your own unforgettable brand presence. Each episode delivers the exact tools and brand direction to make you shine. From magnetic messaging to client attraction systems that feel as natural and delicious as a designer jacket. Whether I'm sharing backstage insights from my own journey or featuring conversations with brilliant innovators, you'll leave knowing exactly how to showcase your unique brilliance to attract your ideal customers. Because a luxury level brand presence shouldn't be exclusive. It should be accessible to every helping professional ready to step into your spotlight. Ladies, you've come to the right place. It's your time. And the champagne's on me. The lights are up and welcome to another edition of Runway Conversations with our fabulous new cover star for the May issue. She is an absolute powerhouse. Now, I love inviting other magazine, publishing, podcast founders onto this show and into the magazine because it helps fulfill my own mission of giving women more resources, more amplification. So when I met this gorgeous lady on LinkedIn and saw the scale of what she's built, I had to reach out to her and ask her to come on. So I'm very, very honored. We are going to dive deep into the theme of the magazine today, which is solo CEO entrepreneur. So first of all, please give a warm welcome with me to Raimonda Jankunaite. Jankunaite. What a beautiful name. So Raimonda Jankunaite, as I said, is also a magazine founder and has a huge platform empowering women, especially leaders like myself and visionaries and change makers, to have more voice, more visibility, more power, more impact. So we're going to dive in to what her story is and how she came from starting this. Her trajectory hasn't been as long as mine has, but nevertheless, I hope that she's going to share some things to inspire you. So where did this story come from? Where did this huge project, this vision, this gorgeous platform that you've built, how did it start, Raimonda?
Well, thank you so much for having me here today, Jennifer. I'm really excited to be here and also share some parts of my journey, especially around solo entrepreneurship, because as you quite rightly said, yes, I was a solo entrepreneur at some point and have gone through the ups and downs of starting a business. And I've always been very entrepreneurial, actually. I've never wanted to pursue a regular career, such as 9 to 5 or going into a corporate. So after graduating from university, I started my first business at the age of 21. And at that point, of course, I was a solo entrepreneur trying to get my dream off the ground, which was very much the project was actually in sustainability and sustainable water, and it was something quite simple. How can we reuse our own water bottles to refill them? So I created stations for people to refill their bottles, and that's what I was working for initially as an idea. But that business didn't work out. It was a little bit too early. I was ahead of my time. I didn't have enough support as far as finances and being able to scale this project. And so a few years down the line, I had to actually give it up and start looking for something else. And I think that particular experience really knocked me off the confidence. And I felt like, well, what would come next? And I was really looking for that next idea, next big break. I couldn't quite settle on one thing because I was really passionate about business. I knew I wanted to do business, but I didn't know what it was. And as we later will uncover, I think business needs to be really tied into who you are and what your values are and what your mission is. So the business that I have today evolved pretty much organically by me following the clues in the things that I was passionate about. And so it started with one event in London, and I called it Women in Business, and a group of women showed up. They loved the experience, and at the end of the event they said, "Ray, when are you doing this again?" And I was like, I don't have a plan. This was just kind of one-off. I was just following my inner guidance to do this because I felt passionate about doing it. And so that was the beginning of the big journey where I am today.
That's so interesting, because I meet with a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs who are only at this stage thinking about starting up a group or a network. And you felt called to do it right at the very beginning, and trusted, which blows my mind. So you talked about really tuning into our values. What was it at that stage that you were just kind of starting to feel that was important to you in your values?
Yeah, for me, what I wanted was to build a business that made an impact. For me, that was important. I wanted to do something worth doing, worth pursuing, worth putting my whole energy behind it. And it needed to be big enough for me to feel like it's more than me. It's more than just about me. And so I think I've always been very mission-led, purpose-led. And community was definitely one of my values, because the first business I've built was also around community, around impact, social impact, and positive impact. And it's just those clues that actually allowed me to find the thing that I loved. And when I saw, up until that point, I've attended many events, and usually mixed gender events. And that's all I've known. And I've been to many events because I was trying to build my business. But when I created only for women event, and there were a few men in the audience as well, I felt the difference. I felt the safe space. I felt like we could share our ideas. I felt like our struggles were some of the same, right? Some of the things, some confidence, wanting to build our businesses and not having all the answers. But I felt there was vulnerability in a room, that we were willing to share and talk about things that impacted us. And I think this is where I noticed the difference and the need for that particular type of event and perhaps community. So that was kind of what really started me off on this trajectory where I am today.
Were you in the UK at that time, or were you still in
Lithuania? No, I was in the UK. We were in London. Now I lived in London for more than 20 years. So the event started from London, and actually my community grew very much internationally. I've always had that kind of mindset that you can always have this global vision without having to necessarily just do something locally. But I started locally, and then my community grew internationally very, very quickly.
So you talked about this special feeling that we get when we're in a women's community, especially entrepreneurs, that there is a vulnerability, but there's also an understanding of what it takes to carve our paths and be successful while fulfilling women's roles of being partners and mothers and helpers and carers and all of these other things. So that, I feel, has kind of maybe gone away a little bit in the last few years, except that when I get into women's spaces, I know how powerful and empowered women feel with supporting each other and understanding each other. I can only imagine what that feels like at the scale that you are leading it.
Yeah, I think it's powerful, especially when we know it's a safe space. And I think a lot of women have come from, traumas that are related to either other women or men, and therefore perhaps not feeling safe in that space. And I've seen and I've experienced being in mixed gender events and finding quite competitive, finding ourselves as women being very competitive. And I think that's what, the society has told us. This is a story that we as women have bought into, that we're in competition with one another. But I think if you design, which we have successfully done, we design a space that is supportive, collaborative, encouraging, warm, and safe space for women, that changes the whole dynamic. You walk into a space and you feel like you're in this community of like-minded women who are here to hold you up, who are here to see the best in you. And you really thrive. And one of the reasons why we chose the name Women Thrive from our community organization, once things started to kind of unravel, it was actually during the pandemic when women were carrying most of, I guess, the burden that was placed upon us to take care of our children, to take care of our home, to be the carers in our homes during the lockdown, and give up our jobs, give up our careers to do that. And so I think during that time, a lot of us were wondering how we're going to get through this, right? Each and every one of us was dealing with something different. And so the name came about as, how can we, despite all of this situation right now globally, still thrive, right? Despite these challenges. And I think as a result of us coming together as women to share resources, knowledge, experience, we've actually been able to empower women to thrive, because it's this exchange of information, that mutual support, collaboration and growth. And now I'm really, really passionate about advocating for more women's spaces, because let's face it, in the world, the things that was going on in the world right now is not lending itself to create safe spaces for women. So we have to be the ones that are going to be catalysts for that. So that's what I am passionate about now, to make sure that we have these spaces for women and we enable those collaborations to happen.
Yeah, I just got goosebumps when you talked about that, particularly as you've grown so big already, and you know the scale of what you've grown is just so beautifully impressive. And when, especially in like women's magazines, some of them grow so big, women's organizations can grow so big that they lose this vision in the beginning that it is about support and collaboration and care and genuine connection with the women right in the seat next to us, in the space next to us. And I can feel how passionate you are. I'm blown away at how you have used your passion and your skills to grow this and make such a beautiful business that supports not just you, your family, a team. It's just incredible. 15 years. So what was the early signs for you when you started off this women's business group? What were the early signs? What was the next thing that you said yourself, I have to do this, achieve this to take it to the next level? What was that next level part?
There were a few key moments. One of the moments was when I said, at the end of the first event, women came up to me and said, when is the next event? This for me was clear indication that we got it right, and there are clients who want more. So that was my sign to go away and build something for them. And then I started our Facebook group and I thought, okay, I need to do something else. I need to do something more. And I have put together our first virtual summit. This was in 2018, I think. And I reached out to my community and I said, this is the idea I have. Would you be willing to come and support or be part of this vision? But always, first is the vision. First, you have an idea, a vision, and then I called in people. And when I called in people, there was a lot of support for it. That was my next sign that there is support. There are other women who want to be doing this. Vividly, I remember there was an introduction from one of my friends, Tara. So she lived in New York City and she was volunteering for a TEDx stage in Lincoln Square. And she said, I would love to introduce you to the host and of the TEDx stage for Lincoln Square. And that was Trisha Brooks. Trisha Brooks is a very accomplished woman. She is award-winning director. She was the lead and the organizer of TEDx events. She's been in the industry for a very long time. She's a speaking coach. And I remember getting on the call with Trisha. At that time, I had nothing. I had no community, no audience, no email list. I had 500 people in my Facebook group and a big idea to start my first virtual summit. And I remember having this conversation. She was my first big speaker that I had a chance to connect with. And she said, Raimonda, how can I support you? How can I be of resource to you? And this was such a moment for me to realize that no matter where you are, there are others who are willing to support you. And even though she felt like she was so far ahead of me, that moment of her seeing my vision and being willing to pay it forward was a huge breakthrough for me in my own ability to see the value in what I was building. And at that point, making a decision that no matter where I get to, I want to always pay it forward to women who come in behind me. So that really instilled that belief of knowing that somebody paid it forward for me. And that's something that I will always remember and pay it forward once I get ahead. And so she was one of our headline speakers at our first summit. And it was growth from there. Actually, in 1 year from that spring, this is the year when I set up all of our social media channels and I started Instagram very, very intentionally. Within the first 3 months, we grew to 10,000 followers and everything just blew up. Everything just completely crazy. Within the first year, we grew to 100,000 followers. It was like growth of 10,000 followers every month. And the brand just started to really come up and we started to create a real international community. And things got easier. I was able to attract a lot, high caliber speakers and entrepreneurs and women who would contribute to my membership at the time that I was building. So it felt a really supportive environment. And it's because, again, that commitment and values that I made at the very beginning, and somebody paid it forward for me. So now I could do the same for others.
I think it's really worth just underlining there's 2 points in there that I want our audience to hear is, first of all, you knew that you had to build a community first. You needed to build a community in order to make a beautiful offer, that there had to be somebody that would get behind your vision. Because I know, as I've worked with a lot of solo women entrepreneurs who will have a vision and they don't take enough time to create a community to support the vision, especially now when people are feeling very, very allergic to social media. Just like a lot of them, people just don't want to get on social media now. But nevertheless, we still have to build a community to support our vision. However we do it, just like going out in the beginning, it's the people that are immediately around us, the people we work with. And the other thing is, that's one thing I really want people to hear. The other thing is that there are leaders out there who will pay it forward. And I also experienced this in my very early magazines, is that I seem to attract very high caliber leaders naturally. And when I asked them, they were always so gracious to be interviewed and to be showcased. It doesn't matter. One of my early ones in 2011 or 2012 was Simon Sinek, Start With Why fame. And so I interviewed him. And the other one was Mark Allen, the head of New World Library Publishers, which is publisher of Eckhart Tolle. And people were so gracious. And I know that there are leaders out there who are gracious enough to lend their patronage of attention. Trisha Woods was just beautiful. Second magazine, same. Doors opened to dozens and dozens of really, really high caliber leaders that otherwise you wouldn't have access to. So those leaders, there are leaders out there who will see your vision and bring attention to it. And honestly, I think it's indispensable to have at least one person that sees your vision and gets after it and allows. I think it's natural because they shine as well. And I love the way that people have seen your vision and they've drawn near, than that you grew so quickly. So tell us a little bit more about what's available in the events in the community now for people, because I know you do some really big events, teaching women to speak, to own the stage, to have more opportunities through being on the stage. Tell us about that.
Well, what I realized over hosting the events, of course, you can come to an event and speak on stage, but a lot of times speakers not always very well prepared to take or make use of that opportunity, or don't feel very confident. So I've learned there is a gap for speakers to actually fully take the opportunity of the speaking engagement that they go into. And so when I started to curate, especially our virtual summits, we've done a lot of events leading up to 2020, but in 2020, we had to pivot all of our international events to virtual. And I ended up just committing to one big virtual summit a year, which is going to be in March. But actually what I realized that we started to take on a lot of speakers because we would get hundreds, now thousands of applications actually. And we have very thorough interview process, application process, and we only got 50 spots. And in those 50 spots, women actually make a commitment, and also financial commitment, to be part of this event. And in return, we make a commitment for an entire year to help them personally develop themselves into really confident, successful speakers. So we help them prepare all their assets, their offers, really polish their speaking through different layers of speaking opportunities that we create, and really put them in front of our platform, on our stage, through a magazine, through thought leadership, through collaboration opportunities. And out of all the things that I've done memberships, courses, programs, coaching. This particular journey with Women Thrive Summit has been the most transformational experience for everyone. We get 95% success rate. And I say 95 because not everyone will experience the same results for various reasons. But majority of our clients are so happy with the transformation and the time that they spent with us, that they say, Ray, this has elevated the caliber where I am and what I want to do so much that I can't go back to the version that I was before I joined Women Thrive. So we truly transform and empower women in their speaking, in their confidence. And then we have a magazine, we publish books, we run retreats, we run events. So it's a real ecosystem of a community, organization, and of course, support for speakers. And most recently, I've just launched a community membership for speakers, for those who may not make it onto the Women Thrive stage, but they still want that support. So we've just released the Spotlight community for women to be part of and really develop themselves as speakers.
Okay, we are going to share that, because I know that is very dear to women's leaders' hearts at the moment. So you've gone from a solo entrepreneur to having a team of 15, and you're also a mum. How does it feel? What's your day like, nurturing these gorgeous little girls, beautiful little girls, running a team? You're in Spain. You've got all these events. Like you're so have such a beautiful, serene energy. What's your days actually like?
No day, I guess, is the same. It's interesting being a mom, especially now being mom of two, because being mom of one was different too. It's a different ballgame. The juggle is really real. You know, I have support, which is very lucky. I am raising them on my own. So my partner lives in the UK at the moment, as we got our own commitments at the moment, so we live separately. But honestly, there's just so much that goes into it. And I always thought I gotta wait to have everything perfect to have kids. But in actual fact, when we decided to have kids, things weren't as perfect or as set as I wanted, or all my whole life I envisioned to be. And so when I got pregnant, I decided this is the time to scale. I had 5 people working in my organization. The most core people that I kept, which were, the tech developer and marketing and my magazine editor. So there's just core people that I needed in my team in order to make it work. But as soon as I got pregnant, I thought, there's no way I will be able to still do what I do whilst I'm managing my family. So I have to, this isn't by choice, it has to be by design. And, talking about going from solo entrepreneur to, having a team, this has always been my mindset that if you want to build something worth building, you can't do it all on your own. Because you as a CEO, as the founder, you shouldn't be getting your hands dirty, so to speak, with a website and all of those things. Before I built the team, I've learned every single task there is in my business. I've learned how to create systems, how to build a website, how to write funnels, how to do everything, how to video edit, you name it. So when the time came for me to hire my team, I knew all the functions that needed to happen within my business. And I felt very, very empowered as a CEO to know exactly what it takes to do a job. So nobody could take advantage of the way or tell me things that weren't right or weren't true. So I felt that this was a really, really good way to go about it. Try those skills yourself, but know that this isn't a role that you should be doing forever. And so when I decided to scale my business, I looked at the roles that I need, how can we grow, and how can I bring in the business that will make sense to sustain a team. And first we grew to about 12, and we have a few people coming in and out, but majority of the team has been with me for several years now. And honestly, it's beautiful to have that support. I wouldn't be able to function because right now I only have a few hours a day and my days could be unpredictable. I'm in the morning feeding my baby girl, getting ready my other girl for school. Then, I might have to go out for a walk. It's not an optional, right? I have to take them out for a walk. I may pick up a phone. I have a couple meetings in the afternoon. I have babysitter, and then dinner time, again, family routine. Practically, I get to work at night. And it's not ideal, but it's not forever. And that's why I need the team to be able to do this. I can't do it on my own anymore.
Fabulous. And what's the vision from here onwards?
Have 20 more people? No. I am writing a book. So actually, I have a book coming out beginning of June. It's called the Speaker Rise Framework. And this is where I teach speakers of how to really be successful speakers, how to rise to the power of their voice and make an impact and also make an income. So I'm writing a book at the moment and really expanding our reach, expanding our impact with Women Thrive, getting our magazines more into retail shops and just building out community, doing more events. We're also doing an event in London, which is our big comeback event that's happening 5th and 6th of June. I just really get so much joy of seeing women together, and I hope to do more in-person events. That's my goal.
Raimonda, this has been such a joy. You are a true inspiration. I'm going to push everybody your way, be in your space. It is really, it just gladdens my heart seeing how you manage everything together, your values, how you bring the family life, managing the team, you keep your passion, you keep looking absolutely stunning and just making such an impact for women, especially women who want to make an impact and who need their messages out in the world. So I really want to thank you so much. Is there anything that you'd like to add for our listeners?
I think, women are meant to be these gracious beings that we get to not only to be beautiful, to be ambitious, but I think we're here to be leaders. And whether you're a leader in your own family, in your community, just remember that there are people who are looking up to you. And so don't get displaced by things that are happening in the world. Don't get displaced by some of the things that may happen to you. Because in the end of the day, you have been given a purpose, mission, and just tap into your values, tap into really what you feel passionate about, and find that inner peace that take your time to build something. Because I think we don't need to buy into this masculine energy narrative that we need to push. No, we can be strategic. We can be in our alignment. We can be in our feminine energy and really birth something into this world that you will feel proud of. And take your time, because I'm in this for a long haul. I've always had this vision of I'm in here for a long haul. This is my life's work. And even though it may change the shape, we might pivot from virtual events to live events, from live events to virtual, or, I might bring on new products or services. But know what you stand for and stick with it, because people will fall in love with you, not the product. So you're the brand, you're the voice, you're the one that's going to advocate for your vision. And so you got to be the one that is going to tell your story. And with that story, hopefully empower and inspire other people to be part of that community that you perhaps will be building. That's what has worked for me. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for this opportunity. It's been absolute joy to meet you and get to know your platform and your publication. And actually, I'm really excited to share it with my community and for them to get to know you as well.
Thank you. And I think that was such a good point to end on, is women at the moment are getting so sensitive to global events. And you're absolutely right. Holding our missions and our visions and staying on course with developing our soul work is the work. Thank you. We look forward to seeing much more of you and sharing your message and being as much of a support as I can. So thank you, Raimonda.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was a pleasure to be here today.
Lights down. That's a wrap on today's Brand Runway collection. I hope you're filled with inspiration to step into your spotlight and claim your place as the sought-after and fully booked-up changemaker you're meant to be. Remember, your gifts and the value you bring to the world are pure gold. They deserve the perfect showcase. For all the tools and resources we discussed today, including the latest edition of Brand Runway magazine and how to take the next step, your VIP access awaits in the show notes below. This is your moment to shine brilliantly. And until our next showing, this is Jenni Parker Brown reminding you that every day is your runway. Bye-bye.